So the problem is, you think that the door was closed because it had anything to do with you. I'm here to tell you today that whatever that door was that closed, let me tell you something. The best thing that I've ever heard was that rejection is God's protection. Now, don't that just make you feel something in your bones? Does it not just make you feel something on the inside that's just like, you know what? That really wasn't where I was supposed to be anyway. So today we're going to be talking about closed doors. I thought that this would be a good conversation to have because so many of us have experienced a closed door, right? You know, whether that was the end of a relationship, a friendship, it could be romantic, it could have been a job situation, it could be anything. It could be a proposal that you sent, it could be a pitch that you made to a company that you wanted to work with. It could have been a job offer. It could be that you got laid off or fired from your job. I'm here today to tell you I'm a living testimony to this notion that a closed door is nothing but God redirecting you to a whole new path. And that it's not what happens to you in life. It's really how you respond to what happens to you in life that really matters. So let's take this back, right? You know, I used to work in news like heavy. I've done radio, I've done television, I've done a show on Bravo, I've done reality television. So for me, I've kind of done all of the things that I really wanted to do in life. Well, there's still some more things that I want to do. But working in news was something that I dreamed about since I was a kid. I remember growing up and watching Entertainment Tonight and thinking, I want to be that person. I want to be that person that's standing there talking about the entertainment news, the celebrity lifestyle, those sorts of things. I always knew that I wasn't really meant for hard news. You know, when I got to Virginia Tech, and I was in undergrad, I was a freshman. And so they had this thing called Tech Tonight. And it was essentially the sort of like weekly news, but it was kind of like more hard news. Not that there's really hard news in the college, but it was still more like the 6 p.m. news. So you had your anchors, you had your, field reporters, and you had people that, operated the camera. And so I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm studying journalism and mass communication, so I think that this is something that I should apply for. In my younger days, I have to tell y'all, there was nothing that I thought that I could not do. I was just like out there living and dipping and doing it, baby. I had no fears, right? Something happens to us, I think, as we grow older that I think life and people and experiences cause us to retreat inward in this weird way. But baby, when I was younger, I didn't have any fears at all. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna audition for that and see what happens, right? So I remember doing my audition and I remember thinking, okay, I think that went well, and I went about my way. So I get the call that they want me to actually be an anchor for the news. And that was huge because there were no other freshmen who were anchors on the news. Okay, this was a big deal. Tech Tonight was a big deal for me. So most of the time, what ended up happening was you would maybe start as like a reporter, a field reporter. So you would have to go and, grab the camera and, go do your packages and do the editing so that you can prepare it for the show. While the anchors, for the most part, we showed up, we read the stories on the teleprompter, and we had our little banter, and we just kind of went on about our way. I was like, honestly, this is like the life right here. All I got to do is show up and do my thing. For me, that was lit, right? So I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be great. Well, it turned out to not be so great, okay? Because there was a little bit of dissension with the fact that I, as a freshman, was an anchor sitting alongside other seasoned journalists, right? These were like juniors and seniors who had paid their dues and done their time, right? So for me to go from being like this novice, this freshman walking in and just thinking, I got this, I can do this, and then getting it and not having to do the field reporting and all that other stuff, I was like, that is a testament right there to the idea that you can have whatever you want to have. And regardless of whether or not people think that you're qualified for it or not, if it's meant for you, you're going to get it regardless, right? And also for me, the power of manifestation. Now, I have gotten some requests to do manifestation topics on this channel, and we'll get to that. But today, the message, it came to me through a friend actually, was that I should talk about closed doors. And I brought the Tech Tonight incident up because I kind of wanted you guys to understand my path, right? How I got into news in general. So as the year went along, like I did struggle just a little bit with the teleprompter. And so I was like, you know, this isn't as fun as I wanted it to be, because not only that, but I was getting a little bit of hate from my co-anchors and also from the people who were out in the field doing the packages, because I guess they thought that I should not have been in that space, right? So at the end of the year, they came to me and they said, well, you know, starting next year, we're gonna need for you to start doing packages. But I'm like, none of the other anchors are doing packages, so why would you make me do packages? So y'all know what I said. Deuces. I was like, there's no point in doing this. I know that I don't want to be out there in the streets doing those packages. That's just not what I wanted to do. No disrespect to anybody who does that. I'm sure they learned a lot. I'm sure it was great for them. But at the end of the day, that was not my ministry. So I didn't do it. And I've always been that type of person. When I don't want to do something, I don't do it. Period. So that happened, right? So I've gone on to do radio and other things like that. And I remember kind of being in LA and thinking to myself, I need to get back into the cycle of doing news, but in the way that I want to do it. So I started working for AfterBuzz TV. So for those of you guys who don't know, Maria Menounos, who is wildly popular, and I guess her partner, Kevin Undergaro, who is, I call a mentor, they started AfterBuzz TV. And what that was an online platform where people like me who loved reality TV and television shows could go. We would watch the shows there, and then we would go sit in a room. We had a whole setup, and then we would basically talk about the show. And so a lot of my following grew from my time at AfterBuzz. So towards the end of my time in LA, I ended up getting a call from a friend of mine who I had worked with previously in LA for an opportunity in Miami. I was already going to Miami because I was going to be an ambassador for the American Black Film Festival that year. If you're not following ABFF, please follow them. They're a great organization. I can tell you that story another time. That was also another thing that I feel like manifestation, baby. It was actually, so much came into play at this point in time. So I remember that I had seen this opportunity come up for the American Black Film Festival, and I said, I want to be a part of that. And so you could apply to be an ambassador, and I did, and then I ended up getting it. So that was amazing, right? So I got to go to the ABF Honors. That was in Los Angeles in that February, I think it was 2018. So as a part of the, program, you would go to the American Black Film Festival in Miami that year, and you would essentially, promote, the film endeavors and that sort of thing. So my friend, who was a producer on a talk show in Miami, said, hey, do you want to come while you're in Miami? So mind you, I'm going to Miami for free at this point. Like, not paying for a thing. Going to Miami. Who's gonna pass up that? And the funny thing is, y'all, I had always said two things. I knew at some point I wanted to live in Los Angeles. I'd always said for 3 to 5 years, and I also wanted to live in Miami. I had been in Los Angeles at that point 3 years exactly. So I remember it was May of that year of 2018, and I go to, I didn't think it was an audition. I thought I was just going to be a guest host on the morning show. So I'm there for the festival, and I'm able to promote the festival and some other things that I was doing. So it was a nice little tie-in. So I go and I meet this woman, her name was Liza. She's become a great friend of mine. She works in PR. She used to do PR for, I think, the Kardashians when they had their show in Miami. And, she recognized me from Stripped on Bravo. And she was like, hey, do you need any, attire while you're here? Because I'm also working with a clothing line, and I think it would be a great tie-in to have you wear some clothes, on the show, or at least for any of the events that you have coming up. And I was like, that would be awesome. She was like, great, you can keep the clothes, I'll bring them to you. Because what ended up happening was they invited me back the next day. It was a Thursday that I did that. They invited me back to the show again on that Friday. So I was like, absolutely, why not? Why would I not do this? Another day to promote the festival, another day to do my thing. My friend was really looking out for me, and I guess everybody loved me at the show. So I remember going in the next day. I actually wore some of the attire from the clothing line that Liza had provided for me. And then as soon as I finished, I remember the general manager sat me down and was like, what would it take for you to move to Miami? Mind you, I'd lived in Los Angeles for 3 years. I'd always wanted to live in Miami. An opportunity to move to Miami has come up. By the end of July, I'm living in Miami, and I'm working on the morning show, right? Now I want you to follow the story, because this relates to the closed door of it all, right? So I go and I do the morning show. So I'm thinking that I'm going to be learning from the best of the best, right? I'm thinking I'm going to be learning from, a seasoned journalist. One of the male co-host was like, he'd done news for a long time. I thought it was going to be great. It was not, okay? It turned out to be a nightmare, because I ended up running into the same exact thing that I ran into when I was doing Tech Tonight. Working with someone who, in my opinion, made me feel so uncomfortable, and I just felt like things were happening that were just like little microaggressions, that I finally had to have a conversation with this person. But I pulled in a producer to do it, because I was like, I don't want you to say, you can't go back and say that I said something that I did not say. No, I want a producer here, because I want to be able to point out every instance for which I felt like I was being either, I'm never going to use the term bully, but I definitely felt like I was being played. So for me, I don't come to work to be played. And at the end of the day, I felt like the job is not really that stressful for us to be at each other's throats. It just didn't make sense. But now that I know the industry a bit better, this is par for the course in news. Whether people want to tell you that or not, it is. So little did I know when I was at Virginia Tech, that was going to be a marker for me for when I actually got into the real news. Didn't know it. So I did that for maybe about 7 or 8 months, right? And I remember going in, there were some more things that happened in between there, but that's another story for another day. So I remember going in on a Friday in, I think it was March. I believe it was March. And we had just done the show, and me and my co-host, because the guy co-host, he had moved on. And so it was just the two of us left. And let me just tell you guys this. I hated reading a teleprompter. This job was very teleprompter heavy. I'm a talker. Like, I am like a banter. I'm more of what you would see on The View or The Talk. I am not the person that is reading the 6 o'clock news stories. That's just not me. It's just not what I want to do. Like, I'm not that guy. So I'm assuming that maybe, I thought maybe it was my performance with that, but I think it was just that they wanted to move the show to Orlando. So at the end of the show, me and my co-host were pulled into the green room and we were told that today will be your last day. Here's your final check and sayonara suckers. Okay. And so I was like, we looked at each other and we were just kind of like, what just happened? And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I could try to go into radio because iHeart was there in Miami and I had some interviews set up, but I was also going on a trip to Dubai for about 10 days. So that was kind of coming in between my interview process. So a friend of mine who a lot of people know is a major force in the entertainment world, Funky Dineva, aka Quentin Latham, I remember him telling me, you should do what you do on the news show, but do it on YouTube. Because at that point in time, I was talking a lot about reality television and entertainment news. I was like, okay, cool. So I did maybe like one video, and then I did another video the following day. And I remember that video, it was about Real Housewives of Atlanta. Nene and Portia had released some text messages. I mean, it was just something crazy. Released it on a Friday, right? And a Friday afternoon. Went to dinner right afterwards. I did that video on my cell phone. Went to dinner right after that. The video blew up, okay? It blew up. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is crazy. Shortly after that, my channel got monetized and I was off to the races and I never looked back. And I tell you guys this whole story because I want you to understand that when a door closes, another one opens. And I need you to really let that sink in. I didn't sit on my laurels, okay? But I also didn't overwork myself. I had a conversation with my friend. I am always telling you guys to utilize your resources. And I had somebody who was doing what I wanted to do tell me or give me a suggestion as to what to do next. And I did it. And as a result, content creation has literally been what I've been doing ever since. And I haven't looked back. And I think that these stories are important to share because it's really my testimony. And I've always heard that our testimonies are not really meant for us. They're meant for somebody else. So I leave you with this today. Rejection is 9 times out of 10 God's protection. And when one door closes, another one always opens. If you guys are interested in more motivational, inspirational, life lessons, self-development type content mixed in with a little bit of travel and, finances, definitely keep it locked to this channel. We're going to be doing a whole lot more. I'm super excited to go on this journey and to take you guys with me, and I'll catch you in the next video.